Men, the most dangerous, most difficult to detect, most psychologically damaging kind of cheating isn't what you can see with your own eyes or discover through obvious signs. Cheating women don't panic when questioned. They don't stumble over their words or show obvious signs of deception. Why? Because they prepare, they rehearse, they build elaborate stories, carefully constructed narratives that sound so believable, so internally consistent, so reasonable, that you start doubting your own instincts, questioning your own perception, wondering if maybe you're the one with the problem for even suspecting something might be wrong. Today, I'm going to expose the 6 lies that cheating women consistently tell to protect their double life. The psychological armor they use to stay perpetually one step ahead of your questions while you remain trapped in the dark, confused, doubting yourself, unable to trust your own increasingly insistent gut feeling that something isn't right. Before we begin, hit subscribe and drop a comment if you've ever caught a lie that felt too polished, too perfect, too well constructed to be spontaneous. Your experience might help another man see what he's missing, might give him the clarity to trust his instincts before it's too late. Lie 1. He's just a friend. How it works. This is the oldest, most time-tested trick in the entire playbook of infidelity. She hides the affair, camouflages the betrayal, disguises the emotional and physical intimacy behind a facade of complete innocence. The moment you dare to ask about him, express concern about their relationship, or question the nature of their connection, she immediately disarms your growing suspicion with a casual, dismissive tone and light laughter that suggests you're being ridiculous for even thinking what you're thinking. She makes you feel foolish for noticing what's obvious. She treats your legitimate concern as irrational jealousy. She transforms your reasonable question into evidence of your insecurity and controlling nature. Psychology behind it. This is familiarity camouflage, working at a sophisticated psychological level. By consistently labeling him as just a friend, by repeating this phrase over and over until it becomes accepted fact rather than contested claim, she systematically rewires your perception of their relationship. The more frequently she repeats this characterization, the less threatening he seems to your subconscious mind. The more normal their interaction appears, the less you question the amount of time they spend together. She's not simply lying in the traditional sense. She's training your mind, conditioning your responses, reshaping your perception of reality through consistent repetition of a false narrative. It's psychological programming disguised as casual conversation. Example: she constantly texts a male coworker throughout the day and late into the evening. She laughs at his jokes with genuine warmth. She mentions him frequently in conversation, sharing stories about their interactions, inside jokes you're not part of, details about his life that reveal intimate knowledge. The emotional connection is obvious to anyone paying attention. When you finally notice this pattern and express concern, she responds with practiced ease. "Oh my God, don't be insecure. We've known each other for years. He's literally just a friend. I can't believe you're making this weird." That seemingly reassuring statement isn't actually reassurance at all. It's sophisticated conditioning designed to make you feel ashamed for noticing what's real, to make you the problem rather than addressing the actual issue. Lie 2. You're overthinking it. How it works. This is perhaps the most insidious lie because it attacks not the evidence you've presented, but your fundamental capacity to perceive reality accurately. Whenever you ask a perfectly logical question, point out an inconsistency in her story, or express concern about suspicious behavior, she doesn't address your actual argument or answer your specific question. Instead, she attacks your confidence, your judgment, your mental state, your character. You're not legitimately suspicious based on observable evidence. You're paranoid, overthinking, creating problems, looking for things that aren't there. the focus shifts completely away from her behavior and onto your supposedly defective perception. Psychology behind it. This is gaslighting through systematic dismissal, one of the most psychologically damaging forms of manipulation. By consistently attacking your sanity and your ability to accurately perceive reality, she effectively silences your natural curiosity and legitimate concerns. Your brain, under this sustained assault on its judgment, starts to genuinely doubt itself. Am I crazy? Am I being irrationally jealous? Am I imagining patterns that don't exist? Am I damaging the relationship with baseless suspicions? And the moment you begin to second-guess your own instincts, to doubt your own perception, to question your own judgment, she's completely safe again. You've been neutralized as a threat to her secret life. You'll stop investigating because you don't trust yourself anymore. Example, you notice she's been deleting text message threads that used to stay visible. You ask a simple, reasonable question: why did you delete those messages? Instead of providing a straightforward answer, she sighs with exaggerated exasperation. Here we go again. You're imagining problems that aren't there. You're overthinking everything. This is exhausting. This is classic guilt reversal in action. Suddenly, you've become the problem for noticing evidence of deception. You're the one creating unnecessary drama. You're the one damaging the relationship with baseless accusations. The actual suspicious behavior gets lost entirely as you find yourself apologizing for having normal human instincts. Lie 3. It was just work. How it works: she strategically uses her job, her career responsibilities, her professional obligations as her ultimate unassailable cover for suspicious absences and unexplained time. Late meetings that run hours past normal business hours, business trips that seem to happen with increasing frequency, client dinners that extend well into the night, conference calls that require her to leave the room and close the door for privacy. Everything becomes conveniently untouchable, beyond questioning, because it all sounds professionally responsible and career-focused. Psychology behind it. This is credibility masking at its most effective. Work is the perfect excuse, the ideal cover story, because it's socially respected, economically necessary, and rarely questioned in detail. Questioning someone's work obligations feels like you're interfering with their career, being unsupportive, or acting jealous of professional success. The real genius of this lie is how she mixes truth with deception in proportions that make the deception invisible. She probably did stay late at the office, just not as late as she claimed, and not for the reasons she suggested. This kernel of truth is what makes the larger lie believable. You can't prove she wasn't at work because she was at work, just not alone and not doing what she said. Example, she tells you she stayed late at the office finishing an important project. But when you happen to run into her coworker at the grocery store, their story doesn't quite match. They mention everyone left by 6. When she finally comes home hours later, her perfume smells fresh, recently applied, not like something worn all day at a desk. But in her mind, as long as she worked a little, spent some time actually at the office, the rest doesn't count as lying. She was at work, and then she wasn't. The partial truth provides cover for the complete deception. Lie 4. I just needed some space. How it works. When she starts systematically disappearing emotionally or physically, creating distance that wasn't there before, spending time away from you and the relationship with increasing frequency, she doesn't present this as what it might actually be. Withdrawal, disconnection, investment of time and energy elsewhere. Instead, she strategically frames it as healthy self-care, personal growth, necessary time for individual development. She's not pulling away from you. She's recharging, finding herself, maintaining her independence, prioritizing self-care. The language transforms concerning behavior into admirable personal development. Psychology behind it. This is emotional reframing that transforms avoidance into healing, making distance look not just acceptable, but actually noble and psychologically healthy. Modern relationship psychology emphasizes the importance of maintaining individual identity within partnerships, of having time alone, of not being codependent. She weaponizes this legitimate relationship advice to justify behavior that serves an entirely different purpose. She convinces both you and, crucially, herself that she's doing this for the relationship, that the space she's creating will ultimately make your partnership stronger. You're not supposed to question it, because questioning healthy boundaries makes you seem controlling or codependent. Example: she suddenly starts spending entire weekends alone or with friends, when previously she enjoyed spending that time together. When you question this sudden change in pattern, she responds with slight indignation. "Can't I have time for myself? Why do you need to control everything I do? I need space to be me, not just your girlfriend." The response is designed to make you feel guilty for even asking. But that space she's claiming for personal growth and self-care is actually the breathing room, the time and freedom her double life requires to exist. She's not recharging her individual battery. She's maintaining a separate relationship that requires time away from you. Lie 5. You're the only one I want. How it works. When you start noticing too many inconsistencies, asking too many questions, getting too close to the truth, she doesn't retreat or become defensive in obvious ways. Instead, she goes on calculated emotional offense, sudden affection that seems to come out of nowhere, passionate reassurance delivered with intense eye contact, elaborate promises about your future together, declarations of love that feel almost performative in their intensity. She'll say everything you've been wanting to hear, deliver every reassurance you've been craving, provide every affirmation of commitment you've been seeking, specifically designed to keep you from looking any closer at the evidence that's accumulating. Psychology behind it. This is affectional manipulation deployed as a strategic tool. She uses intimacy, emotional connection, physical affection, and verbal reassurance specifically to reset your suspicion level, to make you feel guilty for doubting someone who clearly loves you so much, to redirect your attention from evidence to emotion. The human brain has a powerful tendency to associate warmth with honesty, affection with truth, intimacy with authenticity. So when she says these reassuring words, while touching your hand gently, while looking directly into your eyes with apparent sincerity, while initiating physical intimacy, your brain naturally wants to believe her. The emotional context overrides the logical evidence. Example: she makes an unprompted declaration. "I don't even talk to other guys. You're literally the only man I think about. I can't imagine my life without you." It's intense, specific, seemingly heartfelt. But seconds later, her phone vibrates on the table, screen down as always. She glances at it quickly, dismisses it, returns her attention to you. Her words aren't actually meant to convince you in any permanent way. They're meant to stall you, to buy time, to create enough emotional confusion that you don't pursue the evidence your gut is telling you to pursue. The reassurance is tactical, not truthful. Lie 6. It didn't mean anything. How it works. If she's finally caught with undeniable evidence, if the proof is so overwhelming that denial is no longer a viable strategy, she doesn't admit the full truth even then. Instead, she immediately pivots to minimization, to reducing the scope and significance of the betrayal. It wasn't serious. It was just a stupid mistake. It didn't mean anything emotionally. It was meaningless physical contact, not a real connection like what we have. She systematically reduces the emotional weight and moral significance of the affair, so you'll focus your energy on forgiveness rather than on establishing the full facts of what actually happened. Psychology behind it. This is moral minimization, a psychological technique designed to shrink the perceived size of the betrayal. By framing the affair as meaningless, as lacking emotional significance, as just physical, or just a moment of weakness, she attempts to reduce your justified anger and hurt. The logic she's implying is, if it meant nothing to her, it should hurt less for you. If it wasn't emotionally significant, then it wasn't really a complete betrayal. This allows her to maintain some moral high ground even in confession. She's not someone who fell in love with someone else or conducted a meaningful affair. She just made a meaningless mistake. And meaningless mistakes can be forgiven, right? Example, you confront her with concrete proof, screenshots, witnesses, undeniable evidence. She can't deny it anymore. She breaks down crying, appears genuinely distraught, and says through tears, "It was a one-time thing. I don't know what I was thinking. It meant absolutely nothing. It's already over. I promise you, it meant nothing compared to what we have." But in reality, as you eventually discover, it's been going on for months, possibly longer. It wasn't one time, but dozens of times. It wasn't meaningless, but a full emotional affair. She's not confessing. She's just rewriting history in real time, admitting only to the absolute minimum you've already proven, minimizing everything else, protecting what's left of her image and your willingness to stay.